The ride is virtually gimmick-free. There are no flips, no corkscrew turns. The formula that makes this so entertaining is simple: speed plus surprise. Busch Gardens' newest coaster sets a new standard. In 1997, Busch Gardens had an unusually hard time getting their new coaster approved. 250 feet tall, 170 feet off the ground, diving into a ravine. And by the end of the year, they got the green light and the project was a go. A year later, they were ready to unveil the big mystery. This was Apollo's Chariot, built by the same company that built Alpengeist, Bolliger and Mabillard. This being their very first hypercoaster, a 200+ foot non-inverting coaster focused on negative G-forces. This would start with a 210-foot first drop, hitting 73 miles an hour, going into a series of camelback airtime hills, a high-speed spiral to turn around, and heading back to the station with more hills. Riders would sit 4 across in a train of 9 chariots, just a lap bar holding them in, allowing them to experience all the weightlessness on every one, 9 drops in total. This is the Michael Jordan of roller coasters. It has an unprecedented amount of airtime. Cindy Darko, Director of Public Relations. Its theme is out of Greek mythology, Apollo allowing his human son, Phaethon, to take the reins to his chariot and steer the sun across the sky. But the horses take control and the sun scorches the earth in the heavens, proving that no mere mortal could handle the power of Apollo's chariot. Banking on their new coaster to draw in guests, Busch Gardens was working together with other attractions in the area to draw people for an extended amount of time. 1999 marked the first time people could buy a Virginia theme park vacation flex ticket, offering unlimited admission for 5 consecutive days to Busch Gardens, Water Country USA, Kings Dominion, Waterworks, and 4 nights at a hotel. To get more people out to the area, the park invited a famous face to make the new ride stand out, the male model, Fabio. Park spokeswoman Dana Mahali explained, "Since Apollo's Chariot is based on a Roman myth, we thought we'd bring in our own Roman god." Fabio made his appearance on March 30th, but nobody could have ever foreseen what would happen next.
Fabio was Apollo himself, taking off on a picture-perfect day for the inaugural ride. Then, in a bizarre turn of events, Fabio returned with a face covered in blood. During the ride, the model came face-to-face, literally, with a goose, slamming into it at 73 miles per hour.
It was a bizarre incident that the Daily Press's Mike Holtzclaw would describe as the imagery of Hitchcock at the time of the Keystone Cops. Fabio boarded the front row, surrounded by 36 young women dressed as Apollo's Vestal Virgins, and what was supposed to be a fun photo op turned into one of the most famous moments in coaster history. Witnesses say at the bottom of the first drop, while the train was traveling 73 miles an hour, a goose hit Fabio in the face and splattered blood everywhere. He would just suffer a minor laceration, released from the hospital without talking to reporters, and flew back to Southern California early. The park's vice president of design and engineering, Larry Giles, taken over the series of satellite interviews he was scheduled to do. Park officials shut the ride down for 15 minutes for inspection, and then opened to the public. Ride operators made a big deal out of the 26 seconds of weightlessness the train would experience, saying, "Enjoy your maximum airtime on the wings of Apollo's Chariot." With all the inversion-based coasters the park had, Apollo's Chariot offered a smooth, graceful experience that separated itself from the rest. As the Daily Press's Sam McDonald said, "The problem the park now faces is dealing with its own success. Apollo's Chariot is so much fun, some of its other attractions pale by comparison." As well received as Apollo's Chariot was, the Fabio story took on a life of its own.
These guys love Fabio! Do you remember Fabio got hit in the face by a goose?
Yes! Some of you are ahead of me. Did you see when Fabio got hit in the face by a goose while he was riding a roller coaster?
Fabio said he had no interest in suing the park, but that doesn't mean he was happy about the incident. He blamed the park for the circumstance, talking to ABC's Good Morning America and Diane Sawyer on national TV, saying the pond near the first drop was a haven for geese, and was afraid this was not an isolated incident and would happen again. The park responded by installing netting in certain areas around the ride. Despite his warning, the crowd still rolled in to ride Apollo's Chariot, some not aware that Dragonfire had been closed for almost a whole year, and in the summer of 1999, the park decided to try and sell it. They left modification on the table, but they were hoping to offload it. The park noting how unpopular the ride had become. For the time being, the ride would not be modified, nor would it find a buyer. It would just sit idle after 6 years of operation. In June, the park would welcome in the Wiggles, the Australian children's singing group, trying to appeal to those who weren't tall enough to enjoy Apollo's Chariot. But factors out of their control dampened the tourism season, such as Hurricane Dennis in late August and early September. They would try to make up for it by introducing Hallow-Scream, an elaborate new Halloween event. In the past, the park would put up Halloween decorations and had some costume characters, but this would be so much more than that. We have taken some ideas that have been used at other Busch Gardens theme parks around the country, and we've added a few of our own touches. It's a long, very creative process, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Steve Carr, Director of Operations. He also said it was a major transformation of the park, enhancing it rather than changing it entirely. This included the Dark Tower, a haunted maze in the Hastings section, and the Transylvania Express, an 8-minute spooky train ride with interactive elements. After Halloween, Joe Finch would retire from his post as general manager, and Daniel D. Brown would take his post, the corporate vice president of operations for the Busch Entertainment Corporation, a man who started as a seasonal employee at Busch Gardens Tampa 25 years prior and worked his way up. He would lead the park into the new millennium. This would be the park's 25th anniversary, and where opening day tickets ran $6.50, guests coming in the year 2000 would have to pay $37 for adults, $34 for seniors, and $30 for kids. Coming off a year with a major new coaster, Busch Gardens would introduce another major attraction, Jack Hanna's Wild Reserve, an animal habitat where guests could get an up-close look at animals like the gray wolf, the Bengal tiger, and the lorikeet, part of a walk-through aviary where birds can even land on passers-by. Jack Hanna himself was on hand for its grand opening in late March. For him, this was about education and preservation. That's why something like this habitat can be so important. A lot of kids might come to Busch Gardens for the roller coasters, but they will remember the wolves. And when they read about how the species may become extinct, they will think about it from a different perspective because they have seen one up close like this. Busch Gardens would not stop expanding going into 2001 as they announced a brand new country to be added to their lineup, Ireland. Anheuser Busch Vice President of Entertainment Joe Pesci promised this would not be the Ireland of breakfast cereals and deodorant soaps. It would be as authentic as possible, even importing Irish students to work in the shops and act as street performers. This would replace the Hastings Hamlet of the England section, and it would be the main focus of their 2001 advertising campaign. Meanwhile, Hallow-Scream was ready for its second season, and the park learned a lot from the first season. The demand far outweighed what they had to offer, so this year they would start the festivities 1 week earlier. The Hallow-Scream events would start earlier in the day, some starting at noon where before they wouldn't start till 6 p.m. They would upgrade their existing attractions and add a new headliner, No Escape from Pompeii, a new maze. Crews worked all winter to get Ireland ready, revamping the Magic Lantern Theatre, home of the popular Rockin' the Boat show, now to be known as the Abbey Stone Theatre, and hosting Irish Thunder, a 30-minute step dancing show. The Secrets of Castle O'Sullivan, a show including music and special effects, crafts, shops, live entertainment, and the big new attraction, Corkscrew Hill, a reimagining of King Arthur's Challenge, being revamped from the original Questor, a 4D Celtic journey through the land of giants. The park would open in March, but Ireland would not be ready until May. Busch Gardens launched a mobile marketing campaign, a caravan of 5 vehicles on a 60-day, 25-city tour, decked out in clovers and Irish theming to promote the new country. As the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 shocked the country and the world, Anheuser Busch tried to do their part to keep people safe, and to honor those who keep us safe. August Busch III offered free admission to all parks under the Busch umbrella to firefighters, police officers, and EMTs. In this difficult time, it's important that we recognize their commitment, dedication, and courage by offering the opportunity to share time in our parks. Immediate family would also receive free admission for one visit and get 25% discount after that. Once they arrived at the park, they would be greeted with brand new metal detectors, the price of safety costing extra time at the front gate and increasing the overhead cost of Busch Gardens and parks around the country. While the attack scared a lot of people from traveling to destination parks, regional parks like Busch Gardens performed a lot better. Ireland boosting the park's attendance 17% over 2000, up to 2.7 million visitors. The most exciting thing that came out of 2002 would be the brand new Interstate 64 exit, the project that was approved in 1986, nearly opened in 2000, but a steel supply issue for the overpass delayed it even further. And here it was, finally ready 16 years later, funneling drivers off the highway and into the park, bypassing all the traffic lights on Route 60, introducing a new parking toll plaza. Once inside, they would find a brand new show, Imaginique, a French-style circus to take place in the Royal Palace Theatre. 2002 would also mark the 10th straight year Busch Gardens would win the award for World's Most Beautiful Theme Park, as voted on by the National Amusement Park Historical Association. That would be made harder by a drought that struck the Mid-Atlantic area. Virginia Governor Mark Warner levied water restrictions, leading the park to start washing trams by hand and not using water, and hand watering all of the flower beds, ensuring the flowers get the water and not the lawns. Despite fears of tourism being down following 9/11, the industry as a whole fared better than expected in 2002, especially Busch Gardens. Every employee from all 9 of Anheuser-Busch's parks received a Christmas bonus. 2003 started off on a somber note as a painter fell to his death while working on the Big Bad Wolf, his high-reach vehicle overturning. This was around the same time the Iraq War started, causing concerns as the last Gulf War in 1991 depressed tourism to the colonial Williamsburg area. After 9/11, August Busch offered free admission to first responders, and now with the onset of the war, he would offer free admission to active duty military, as well as active and standby reservists and National Guardsmen, including up to 4 direct dependents. Right after the season began, General Manager Dan Brown left the park to accept the same position at Busch Gardens Tampa Bay, replaced by Donald Mills, promoted from Vice President of Operations. To draw in new crowds, Busch Gardens would introduce R.L. Stine's Haunted Lighthouse, a 4D film replacing Pirates at the Globe Theater, ending its 4-year run in favor of the author of Goosebumps, the new film based on his children's horror novels. They would also introduce a Summer Nights Pass for $44.99, the same price as a single day's admission, giving guests access to the park all season from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Meanwhile, the park had its sights set on the Rhinefield section, asking to build a 40,000 square foot building where Wild Mouse currently stood. All they would say is this would be a state-of-the-art ride, but they pulled the request at the end of 2003, as this ride was still in the conceptual planning stages and changes could still be made. This would not be ready for the 2004 season, but it would mean the end of Wild Mouse. It was removed and shipped down to Busch Gardens Tampa Bay, reopening for the 2004 season as Cheetah Chase. In Williamsburg, season pass sales were booming thanks to the new 4-pack special. Buy 3 passes and get a 4th one free. For the first time, these pass holders would not have their picture taken. Rather, they would have their hands scanned. This new biometric system being more secure and faster, according to Doug Stagner, Vice President of Operations. This would also be the first year the park would offer rain guaranteed tickets. If the park is rained out, they could return within 7 days for free, or get a 50% discount for future visits beyond that. The main change for the 2004 season would be an all-new Imaginique show at the Royal Palace Theatre, as well as pet shenanigans, featuring dogs and cats and birds and high-wire acts in the Ireland section. This was all leading up to the big announcement for their cutting-edge edition for 2005. It's dark, scary, and just the thing tourism representatives believe could provide a spark after what could only be described as a dismal season. Bill Tolbert, the Virginia Gazette. Curse of Darkastle would be part coaster, part simulator, using state-of-the-art visual projection. General Manager Donnie Mills called it the most exciting attraction he's been involved with in his 30 years with the company. This would be themed to a cursed 19th century Bavarian castle, riders boarding an 8-person golden sleigh that would move along a track, the 5-minute experience being synced up to match the visuals. It would be the most expensive ride Busch Gardens ever built. Riders were impressed when this opened in early May 2005. The effects of fire, fog, ice, water, simulating a 40-story fall, the car spinning, a dining table appearing to levitate. It took a long time to get perfect, but by opening day, the Vice President of Marketing, John Gillespie, said, "We executed it exactly as I hoped we would." People flooded in to experience this amazing new dark ride, and Busch Gardens sweetened the pot for Virginia residents, offering a Super 2 for ticket, being able to visit 2 days for the price of 1. Carrying on the spooky theme, Howl the Scream was getting so popular, the park needed more employees and were having trouble staffing the park once the summer employees went back to school. They started inviting charities to offer volunteers to fill the open positions, raising money for their cause. On October 15th, the park had to close their gates by mid-afternoon, having run out of parking spots. A total of 2.6 million people came to the park in 2005, up 8.3% over 2004. Curse of Darkastle was the main reason for the jump in attendance, and by the start of 2006, they were looking up to the future. They filed a height waiver for the France-themed section of the park, Vice President for Design and Engineering Larry Giles stating, "This area will host Busch Gardens' latest expansion, guaranteed to thrill and reward the most challenging park guests." This would not be ready for the 2006 season, but there were other reasons to be excited for the coming year. The Curse of Darkastle would be even better, receiving more imagery and effects, and Ireland would replace their Irish Thunder Dance show with a new one called Emerald Beat. Imaginique would be replaced with a new circus show, and they would reintroduce their summer concert series, ensuring the acts would be family-friendly, something they did away with after the 1993 season. Unlike the previous concert series, guests would be able to get in free with park admission. This year, Busch Gardens would offer a brand new Fun Card Season Pass. For the same price of a single-day ticket, $51.95, this would give guests access to the park through September 4th, excluding Howl the Scream, which is included in the full-price pass, costing $109.95 this season. Guests would also notice the park donning a new name, no longer Busch Gardens Williamsburg, now Busch Gardens Europe, a similar change made to their Tampa park, now known as Busch Gardens Africa. As the season began, the expansion and the height waiver for New France were approved by the James County supervisors, and people noticed the map submitted to the county showed a 5-acre site that would infringe on the site of the Le Mans Railway. The park remained silent on the issue until the last week of June, when they confirmed what everyone suspected. Le Mans would run its final lap on July 5th, capping off 31 years of the park, each one of the 49 race cars having traveled about 200,000 miles. Some of the cars would be reused for Howl-O-Scream, while the others would try to be sold to other parks. Little by little, more was revealed about this mystery project. The proposal stated this new ride could be 50 feet taller than Alpengeist, well over the 200-foot mark. And in the summer of 2006, the park applied to trademark their name, Griffon, a mythical animal that's part eagle and part lion. The Busch Gardens website was teasing the new ride, showing a bird's claw in words such as flight, menacing, immense, strength, and vertical. On August 23, 2006, the park would unveil the beast.
The story's legend, the heart of a lion, the soul of an eagle, a creature of fury and flight that dives through the... Hey! Wait! What's going on? Griffon, only at Busch Gardens.
Just like Busch Gardens Africa received the year prior, Europe would get their own version of a dive machine, the third straight coaster from Bolliger and Mabillard, following Alpengeist and Apollo's Chariot. This featuring a 205-foot 90-degree drop in 2 inversions, maxing out at 75 miles an hour and ending with a splashdown. Riders would sit in wide 10-across trains of 3 rows each, having no floor, your feet dangling above the track. As Larry Giles said, when you're sitting on the outside of those seats, with no floor, it'll be like riding a fighter plane at 75 miles an hour, going through extreme maneuvers. This would be the world's tallest dive machine, the first one without a floor, and even feature a second vertical drop at 130 feet. The site was chosen because of its proximity to Alpengeist and Loch Ness Monster, putting 3 coasters all in the same section of the park. This would cost the park a staggering $15.6 million, topping Curse of Darkastle's short-lived record as the most expensive attraction ever added to Busch Gardens. On the corporate level, Sesame Workshop and Anheuser Busch signed an agreement late in 2006, opening the door for Sesame Street attractions for kids in the coming years. But that was the future, and Busch Gardens Europe was focused on the present, topping off Griffon's 205-foot lift hill in early December, held a media tour shortly before the park opened for the season in March, and announced the May 25th grand opening for their new Star Coaster. That was 2 months into the season, so in the meantime, guests could enjoy a new song and dance show called Viva Italia, and a whole new lineup of concerts were lined up, including Dennis DeYoung of the band Styx, as well as the Oak Ridge Boys and Chubby Checker. Griffon held a soft opening the week prior to its grand opening, inviting members of the media and other websites to test out the ride, eventually opening to all guests during the sneak peek week. It was a big hit, as CoasterWorldNews.com owner William Bernstein said, "On a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 15. Bolliger and Mabillard had done it once again, building a smooth crowd pleaser, actually opening ahead of schedule, and doing so without a hitch. Donnie Mills saw Griffon through its first season and decided to head back home, accepting the job of general manager at Busch Gardens Africa, the place where it all started for him, replaced by John T. Riley, a Newport News, Virginia native, coming over from the corporate office in St. Louis, where he served as the vice president of merchandising. However, he got his start selling popcorn and soda at a stand next to the Loch Ness Monster. He would usher the park into the 2008 season, coming off a 12.5% attendance jump, Griffon helping bring in 3.12 million visitors, the largest attendance gain in the country, and putting Busch Gardens in the top 15 most visited parks. Right away, they filed for permits to add 5 new buildings, nothing over the 60-foot limit to require a waiver, billed as various guest attractions and theming. But more immediate changes would be coming to the park, and to the chain, and to the entire Anheuser Busch company. On June 12, 2008, InBev offered Anheuser Busch $46 billion to take control of the company. The Belgian company was already one of the largest brewing companies in the world. This deal would set to merge 2 of the 4 largest in the world. At first, Anheuser Busch turned it down, and InBev appealed directly to Busch's shareholders to support the buyout, an act that launched a lawsuit to get them to stop the illegal solicitation. A month later, the 2 companies came to a deal, InBev buying Anheuser Busch for $70 per share, about $52 billion in equity in the deal. InBev said they wouldn't close any breweries, but the fate of the parks was in question. As a non-core asset, it was assumed InBev would try to sell the parks, but nobody knew what would happen to the Clydesdales, the Anheuser Busch products, or even the name. Would the park even be called Busch Gardens when all was said and done? As the economy was falling apart and heading for disaster, the market for the chain of parks was a bit soft. Some were looking to foreign companies as the best suitors, including the Merlin Entertainment Group out of England, or Parques Reunidos from Spain. In America, Cedar Fair seemed to be out of the running, having just spent $1.24 billion to buy the Paramount Parks 2 years prior, and Six Flags just lost $150 million in the first quarter of 2008 and had recently sold a bunch of their properties. Late in 2008, both InBev and Anheuser Busch shareholders approved the deal, and 8 executives were dismissed from the company, including CEO Randolph Baker and Keith Kaysen, the former general manager of Busch Gardens, serving as president of Busch Entertainment. He would be replaced by Jim Atchison. While the fate of Busch Entertainment was in flux, the Williamsburg Park made 2 exciting announcements for 2009. First, the Sesame Street deal from 2006 would finally find its way into the park. A new 3-acre kids section coming between England and Italy, this called Forest of Fun, including a new coaster called Grover's Alpine Express, a log flume called Bert and Ernie's Lock Adventure, and 2 other rides, wet and dry play areas, and Sesame Street characters for the kids to meet. The Globe Theater would also have a new movie called Sesame Street Presents: Lights, Camera, Imagination. Then, at the end of the year, the park announced Christmas Town, coming along with a tag stating, "Do not open until November 27, 2009, converting the park into a winter wonderland, staying open for the holidays for the first time in the park's history, some rides not being able to operate in cold weather." It would feature live shows, unique food and shopping experiences, and a million Christmas lights, with an appearance from Santa every night. As the calendar rolled over into 2009, the first edict was handed down from the new ownership: no more free beer samples at the park. This was accompanied by a new season pass system that would provide access not for the calendar year, but for a year from the purchase of the pass, and that pass would drop in price by $30, checking in at $99.95, including free parking and half-price tickets to Christmas Town. With the economy failing and consumer confidence down, this move was meant to convince locals that they could afford a season pass. Admission in 2009 would include free access to the summer concert series, featuring acts like 70s rock legends Kansas and Foreigner. 2009 would also see the park's name return to Busch Gardens Williamsburg, and sadly would be the last time guests would enjoy Big Bad Wolf. In late July, the park announced the beloved suspended coaster had reached the end of its service life after 25 years. General Manager John Riley knew this wasn't going to be a popular decision. "We realized that Big Bad Wolf is a guest favorite. We're making the right announcement now so coaster fans can ride one last time before it closes after Labor Day." 29 million riders had taken on the Wolf since 1984, and park officials were already looking into potential replacements for the ride. Shortly after the lights were officially turned out for Big Bad Wolf, a buyer emerged for Anheuser Busch InBev's theme parks, the Blackstone Group. This company owned the Merlin Entertainment Group and had a 50% stake in Universal Studios Orlando. In October, the deal was done. At a price tag of $2.7 billion, all 10 of Busch Entertainment's parks would be owned by Blackstone. This would mean the Clydesdales would no longer be a permanent exhibit in Williamsburg, now becoming a traveling exhibit, and the Anheuser Busch signs would be removed, but current management would stay in place, as would seasonal events like Howl of Scream and Christmas Town. The deal included a sponsorship with Anheuser Busch, so the parks could keep the Busch Gardens name, but the company would be renamed SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment. This was good news for all, as the park had another Howl of Scream event, followed by the very first Christmas Town, a 45-foot tree rising in front of the Fest House. The event marked by singers and shops and shows and lights, and also a few rides being able to operate in the cold, including Griffon. This wasn't only providing thrills, but also a great perch to admire the million Christmas lights from above. The park would close for the season on December 27th. 2010 started with a lot more certainty than 2009, everything being in flux for the past 18 months. But now, they had a new owner and they focused their sights on the Ireland section of the park, replacing the Corkscrew Hill Simulator show with a new one called Europe in the Air, a celebration of Ireland's scenic beauty and landmarks, paying homage to Ireland's great storytelling tradition. For the first time, Busch Gardens would also host a 3-week extreme sports show, skateboards, BMX riders, and inline skaters performing tricks. And once that show wrapped up in late May, they would launch their new nightly light show, Illumin-Nights, a Busch Gardens encore. This also included a parade and fireworks. As with Howl of Scream after its first year, the park was obligated to extend Christmas Town's schedule to meet demand, now set to open until New Year's Eve, capturing everyone on holiday break looking for something to do between Christmas and New Year's. Also, opening up the entire park to increase capacity, hoping to avoid periodically closing their gates like they had the first time around. The Clydesdales would also come back, but not the iconic Anheuser Busch ones that called the park home for 34 years. They would be a new set of black Clydesdales taking place of the old ones at the new-look Highland Stables. Also, for the first time, the park would offer a preschool pass, allowing free entry for kids 5 and under, a promotional perk for the Sesame Street Forest of Fun which opened the prior year. Right after the new season kicked off, the park filed for a height waiver, wanting to build a single tower thrill ride that would not exceed 260 feet. This would be the tallest ride in the park's history, set to be an expansion of the Oktoberfest Village. In September, it was confirmed. Mock Tower would stand 246 feet tall, lift 30 riders at a time to its peak, and then free fall to the bottom. General Manager John Riley said about Blackstone, "With our new investors, we have more capital for improvement than we ever had before." As exciting as the Mock Tower announcement was, people were still wondering what would replace the Big Bad Wolf. Riley did indulge them, stating a new coaster would take its place in 2012, and it would be a multi-launching, high-speed, electromagnetic roller coaster that would contain a lot of firsts. The park would keep the public updated on the new project via a new website, www.buschgardens.com/big-news. By the end of 2010, more details were revealed via new applications filed with James City County. It would include a 26,000 square foot building 80 feet off the ground, a themed bridge 95 feet above the ground, and would reuse the Big Bad Wolf station. These proposals were approved in January 2011. While anticipation was building up for next year, this year's attraction proved to be problematic. By mid-June, Mock Tower had still not passed manufacturer testing, trying to work out technical issues, and the park hoped to get the ride open in a matter of weeks, not months. However, 2 months later in mid-August, Mock Tower opened to the public. The park held a soft opening, on standby for any problems that may arise, and they passed out flyers in the parking lot informing guests the ride was open, not having the usual pomp and circumstance of a major new ride. Shortly after, Hurricane Irene slammed into the East Coast, causing power outages and water damage to certain parts of Williamsburg, but everything was cleaned up and the park was ready for a big Labor Day weekend. But it was something else that was about to take the park by storm, as it was finally time to unveil the mystery replacement for Big Bad Wolf, the electrifying new coaster daring riders to brave the Black Forest. Thanks for watching episode 5 of the 6-part documentary. If you could drop a like and share this video with anyone who may be interested, I would really appreciate it. This is a massive project and I appreciate the support. I want to thank my Patreons. If you want bonus access, bonus content, and have your name listed at the end of each video, check my links below and join. Stay tuned next week for the final episode, as Verbolten elevates the park to a new level. The chain reacts to the Blackfish controversy and a global pandemic, all the way to present day as Busch Gardens celebrates its 50th anniversary.